Hello, the title of this video is Hermeticism. So in this I consider what it means to live a life predominantly in solitude and in one's own personal space, and what that means for personal development, for spirituality and for art and creativity. So first of all, I'll just show you. This is the conservatory, and the sofa arrived this morning, so I've got a nice four-seater sofa in here now. So it's quite a decent space, and yeah, I'm getting a TV for this wall here, and so to all that. But it's just nice being able to use this room finally. So yes, what do I mean by a solitary life? Well, I've made a decision more or less that for the time being at least I'm going to stay single. So that is quite a big dividing line, whether to be single or to have a romantic partner. And for me, staying single is part of my dedication to intellectualism and spirituality and personal development. So I see being in a relationship as hindrances to that aim. So it's really quite important to me that I have a large degree of solitude, and yes, with that solitude, um, it's very pleasant. I'm very happy with my life at the moment. Um, I'm out of work due to long-term illness, so I have a lot of time during the day to myself, and I use that time to study and to follow art and philosophy and creativity in all its forms. And I also, although I've got out of the habit in the last couple of days, I often go through various forms of spiritual practice, like the Liturgy of the Hours, you might have heard of. The Liturgy of the Hours is a set of prayers throughout the day, like morning prayer, Lord's, evening prayer, Vespers, night prayer, Compline. It's like a set of prayers throughout the day, and yes, I got 3/4 of an hour until my next one, but it's good. It sets a rhythm for the day, and it follows a sort of semi-monastic example, and it's good when you're on your own to have that sort of structure to the day. And yeah, so for me, Hermeticism or solitude in the middle of a big city, because I live in Manchester, England, and yes, it's a big city, but in the suburbs it's very quiet, and within my own personal space in this home it's very quiet. So it's like an oasis in the metropolis. So it's quite. I wouldn't like to live in a rural area, but that's just personal preference. So yes, by a solitary life, sort of it's what I find most contentment in, and my favourite room in the house is the library, Hazelwood Hermitage Library, but my second favourite room is this one, the conservatory, especially now it's finally getting set up after 3 months. And yes, a man's home is his castle, and I find within these four walls I'm more or less content. And obviously I go out to meet friends, and I also go around to my parents quite a bit, but the solitary life is important to me. And during the day especially, I have large hours of solitude. And yes, that helps from a spiritual point of view and an intellectual point of view, because many of the spiritual and intellectual seekers of the entire scope of human history lived large parts of their life in solitude. And I'm thinking of names as various as the Carmelite saints like St. John of the Cross, and Montaigne, the philosopher Montaigne, in his tower. He literally had a tower where he wrote his works. And there's many examples of solitary figures, and it's quite a romantic notion as well. Like many of the romantic poets, like Wordsworth, for example, found walking in the countryside to be in their solitude to be very important to their state of mind and well-being. And yes, I think that's important. So yes, for me, it's a life of solitude is the most important life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And the idea of being in a relationship is almost absurd to me, because it's like you have someone there, you share a home with someone all the time, and there's no, well, you can go in a separate room, but there's no real detachment, there's no sense of detachment. And I think, as I say, if you want to develop your spiritual and intellectual faculties to a great extent, you need some form of detachment from others and detachment in life generally. And I think that's a very important principle. And the sun has just come out now. It's gloriously bright in the conservatory, so that's nice. And yeah, so for me, a life of Hermeticism is crucial. It's how I've structured my life. And to be honest, I just wasn't set out for a relationship because, well, growing up I went to a single-sex school, and then just as I was meeting the opposite sex in university, I got several bouts of psychosis, long-term mental illness, and so just at the time when I could have been getting used to the opposite sex in a romantic context, it just all went wrong with the psychoses and everything like that, and it's just never worked out for me. And I went on a dating website briefly, but nothing happened there really. And I just don't think, now I'm in my 30s, my mid to late 30s, well, 36, and I don't think a relationship is something that I'm going to pursue in the short to medium term at least. And as I say, for me, I keep on harping on about this, but the spiritual and the intellectual and the creative, that triumvirate really, spiritual, intellectual and creative, those are the three most important things for me. And like, whether it's reading or music or cinema or spiritual practice or any of those introversive activities, I find that done best in solitude. and that's what gives me the most happiness and satisfaction in life. And I also hope to produce things for other people, like these videos, written works. I've got written works on smash words. I've got some private personal writing as well, which goes into the hundreds of thousands of words. And yes, I've got a podcast, the Hazelwood podcast, and I like to try and be a voice in the wilderness, sort of a voice in the wilderness to help people make sense of life, because it's really important to make sense of life, and it's not always obvious what life consists of. I mean, like, we have existentialism, where life is absurd, and I certainly don't believe that, but a lot of people seem to live by the tenets of existentialism nowadays, that life is fundamentally meaningless and we have to invent our own meaning. Now, I don't really believe that, because, as I said, I believe in a spiritual framework for life. So I'd agree more with Kierkegaard, the 19th century sort of proto-existentialist, who was like a religious existentialist. He said the solution to life's lack of meaning is religion, and I sort of agree with that in many ways. And for me, the spiritual framework gives everything a holistic perspective, and really helps with my understanding. And as I say in a previous video, the creative imagination is my world, sort of the world of creativity and the inner sphere of existence. So although you can use external works like books and music and cinema, ultimately it's the inner world that counts. And I'm reading a fascinating work of literature called The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. It's available on Penguin Classics quite cheaply, and it's such a fascinating work, and it's very philosophical, and I find that's very well attuned to my way of thinking. So look that up, Fernando Pessoa, The Book of Disquiet. It's excellent. And yeah, that brings me to an end of this video. So I hope you found this instructive or entertaining, and yes, that's it for today, so thank you.